Hey guys, it's Kelly. Hey, I got page number 24 done in my Mixed Media Mini Art Journal series, and it's called Love, Why You Have a Heart. And I love it. I think it came out really, really cute, using some scraps and some fun stuff, and there's lots of tips and tricks in here. I hope you guys get some use out of it. So there you can see my last page, and on this one I used some of the Adirondack Brights acrylic paint dabbers. And that color right there is called Pool, one of my favorites. Love it. It's a very tealy color. Love it. And then the other one is, again, Sunset Orange. And that one, these dabbers will drive out on me because, as many of you know, I live in the desert, and these things don't perform well for me because of my climate. So I left this part in there to show you because I'm sure I'm not the only one who has my paints dry up on me. So what I do is you just add some water and you mix it around. It does take some time, but it's just the way it is. So you just mix it around as best you can, keep adding water until you get it the right consistency, and then it eventually works, and you got to kind of give that dabber a little kickstart there. And as you can see, it winds up working. So my idea for this page was, I kind of had it semi laid out. I had a really good idea how I wanted to do it, but I love mixing Pool and Sunset Orange. I love those colors together, and I kind of wanted a little bit of a vintage feel. And when I was looking through book pages that I wanted to use, they're doctor's book pages that I got at a thrift store, and they're already distressed and torn, and on that one of the pages said why you have a heart, and it's a conversation about heart health and that stuff. And I thought, oh, that's perfect for Valentine's Day, so I ran with it. So there's my tissue paper in my Heidi Swap Magic Medium. Now, honestly, guys, I got this on clearance for $2.49 and thought it was a good deal, but don't bother. Save yourself the money and just mix Elmer's glue and water, because that's like literally what this is. So I'm really disappointed in it. It does not spread well. It works because it's Elmer's glue and water works too. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Heidi Swap, I was kind of expecting something different. I'm actually a lot disappointed in it. So I'll use it because it does still work, but it doesn't spread well. I don't know if you guys can tell. You kind of have to get your hot little hands on it to understand what I'm saying. But I'd stick to Mod Podge. But my favorite is my Liquitex Matte Medium for sure. That's my favorite medium to use. So I just slapped that down on there and then dried it and then cut off the edges. My tissue paper was already stamped, but as I go through this, some of my stamping kind of disappears, so I do have to add some extra stamping that I think I did off camera, but I'll show you about that. So I'm just adding some gesso with some water on my finger, just smear it around, and then I will use a baby wipe and smear it around a little bit more until I just like how it looks. That right there is too chalky. That's too white, too washed out for me. So if you smear it around a little bit, it winds up giving me the effect that I wanted. So, and I just mess with it until I get it to where I want it. My background just kind of looking a little interesting. Like, what do you got going on back there? You got to kind of look at it and really dig into it. That's my favorite thing about mixed media projects, is the layers and layers and all the work that goes into it that people that don't do mixed media don't appreciate, which is fine. But there's a lot of layers and a lot of planning that goes into it, and sometimes you don't plan a darn thing. It just works out. Like that right there. That is my distress stain in vintage photo. I didn't plan that, and in hindsight I wish I wouldn't have done it, but I didn't know how it was going to work. I've never tried that before, so there it is. And it worked okay. It kind of just undid everything that I gessoed, but I thought, well, I wanted it to look distressed, and kind of worked out. But then my Pool color lost its luster. It lost its it just kind of looks kind of gray. So I go in and fix that, and I'll tell you about that in a second. So what I did was I used that Heidi Swap on a little sheet of cream colored paper. I drew some hearts on it and cut them out. And that was when I decided that I was going to have little clusters of hearts here and there. I thought I was just going to have this group of 3, but I wound up cutting 3 more out of that very same piece. So just little hearts. If you've got a heart punch, obviously you could use that too, but I wanted specific hand done sizes, and I liked that they're not exactly perfectly cut hearts, because that makes it a little bit more used and vintagey to me. So I threw it away. I dug it out of the trash later, but so once I cut them, I started going, where am I going to put that? And that's that little book page I was telling you about that I found from the book that kind of inspired this whole thing as far as the hearts, because I knew I was going to do collaging, but I wasn't, and book pages and things like that. That was the direction I was going, with some prints in the back. But when I saw that Why You Have a Heart, I was like, oh, it's Valentine's Day. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So that is a black archival ink, and I'm just distressing the edges there. I had already distressed that little sheet of paper with frayed burlap, and it wasn't quite dark enough for me. So I played with the layout off screen, so I spare you guys that because it's a lot of fussing. And those stamps that I'm using, it's just an alphabet stamp. It's from the TPC Studio Classic Alphabet. And I just laid it out where I wanted it and then put my block over it. And it worked out real nice to have it lined up nicely. And that's a tip and trick for you guys who are new to stamping, or maybe new to this. You know, lay it out, then put your block on it, then you have it perfectly laid out and you know exactly where you want it. So, and there it is, the TPC Studio Classic Alphabet stamp set. And then it didn't stamp perfectly, which happens with mixed media, which is usually fine. It doesn't have to be a perfect, absolutely crisp thing, because this is, like I said, look at the vintagey feel. And then here's another trick. Removable tape is a great tool to have when you're doing this stuff. I love that stuff. Once I get my layout right of these small little pieces that I want to glue down, and little clusters, like all those little sheets of paper, those strips, they're small and they're hard to manage. So once I got them at the right lengths where I thought it looked nice, I put the tape over it to hold them in place. The same thing with the hearts and the sentiment that I have in there that says Why You Have a Heart. So I liked that cluster, so I kept it together with removable tape. If you use regular Scotch tape, it's likely to tear your paper. You know, if it's not going to be, if you're going to tape it on the side that's not going to be on your page, it's not a big deal. But I'll show you another use for that tape here in a little bit where it works really nice. So I used, off the page, I put my Liquitex matte medium because I gave up on the Heidi Swapp stuff, not impressed. So I put it on the back of where I'm going to place it, and then I put it on top as well. But I put it on the back just so I could move it around. I didn't want to glob it around too much because those are real fine strips of paper and they were going to get difficult to work with once they got wet. And it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, but keep that in mind that the thinner your paper, the more it's going to curl when you start putting your medium on it to glue it down. So, and there it is. And then I take my tape off and everything is perfectly fine. Stays right where I want it to and nothing is ruined. And I get a lot more use of that Liquitex matte medium. It goes a lot further. It spreads really nice, and that was what I did not like about the Heidi Swapp Magic Medium. It's like watered down Elmer's glue, and it doesn't have any, I don't know, the matte medium feels like it kind of has more of a glazy feel to it, and it moves a lot easier. So there's that other cluster that I have on my tape. And I did it on the back of it this time. Had I done it on the front of it, it would have worked out easier. I don't know why. I did it on the back because of the layering, how the layering worked. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not that crazy that I can't remember where it's at. So, and this was on pretty thin paper, and it didn't stay stiff with the Heidi Swapp medium. So you can see it start curling up like that, but that's okay. You just keep working it. You're going to put you're going to put your matte medium over it anyway. So it's fine, but you do have to keep at it and work at it for a little bit. So everyone's paper will curl up. You're not the only one. If you're like, what am I doing wrong? Nothing. You're doing it right. That's just how it is. You got to work it. And then I slapped down the other 2 hearts, and they curled as well. And again, you just work with it until they get good and stuck. And that's why I used the archival, nothing smearing, because I knew I was going to put the medium over this. If I used water-soluble ink, like Distress ink, which I love that stuff, but had I used that on these hearts, I'd have a muddy mess right now. So just a reminder for anybody that's kind of new to that and you're like, why is everything smearing? I talk about that in almost every single video that I do. So there's that piece, and I thought, you know, it's kind of dull down at the bottom. I needed a few more hearts, and I like them in clusters of 3. I don't like even numbers on it. Just odd numbers just are aesthetically pleasing. It just looks better. So I just drew 3 more hearts and cut them out from that same piece. And I think I spared you all the cutting. But I cut those little tiny guys out, and then I put the black archival ink on the outside of them too. They definitely needed to have a highlight there on the outsides. And then the placement. They are tricky little suckers. You've probably fussed with these too, but I want to show you another trick. I'm going to bust out my removable tape here in a second. Once I get them where I want them, because you can see my fingers are sticky. I've been dealing with the matte medium. Things are getting sticky. I got them where they want. Take your tape and slap it right on top. There it is. Perfect. And then you've got your cluster right where you want it. Then you take your matte medium, you brush it on, place it where you want it, and you can still see nice, and you pull your tape right up and you're good to go. So if you guys haven't, you know, and this was the first time that actually clicked in my head with this removable tape, and I loved it. It was so easy. I was like, oh, where has this idea been all my life? So I hope that helps you guys. I always try and add little tips and tricks in here. Some you already know, some you don't. But so off screen with my white gel pen, I put little white marks on the word love there. That's what I was displaying for you. And now I've got my black Faber-Castell Pitt pen, and I'm adding some shadows here and there in my collaged strips of paper, just to kind of make it look like it's absolutely supposed to be there. And the shadows, I think, help. I think I got a little too dark in a couple places, but I don't care. It all works out. And what we missed here too is that when I put the walnut stain down, I lost some of that the blue tint to the pool colored the acrylic paint. I went over it again with the dabber and kind of smeared it around, and then re-stamped with the same stamp. You can't even tell that it happened, but it needed to happen because it just looked like stamping in the bottom corner and then just blue or brownish color. So I wound up stamping that off screen. I forgot to hit record, so I'm sorry about that. But if some of your stuff disappears, you still have the stamp, just redo it. So now I'm adding some gesso splatter marks with my fan brush. And when it first goes on, it looks really, really bright. But the thing with the gesso is that as I dry it, it fades and it looks more gray. So as it dried, it didn't have that, you know, bright white. But I think it still did its job. So now I've got my black archival ink, and I am hitting the outsides just to draw your eye in towards the center. I think I do that on about every single page I ever do. And that just gives it a nice finished look, I think. It's almost like a vignette thing that you do on your photos. And then I needed just a little bit more drama around that little sheet of paper there. It says, why you have a heart. I didn't want to go overboard. So there it is! Ta-da! With some scraps and fun stuff. I hope you guys like it. I thought it turned out really, really pretty. Makes me happy. And happy Valentine's Day for those that celebrate that. So, and thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget, it helps me out a lot when you hit the like button, you share it, and I read all the comments I possibly can. So thanks, guys. More to come.